capabilities. We are committed to ensuring that all the stakeholders in our ecosystem, they get to meet together and are able to talk to each other and figure out collaborations or intersections through which they can work towards mutual benefit. Other than that, hackathon is something which we believe is an enabler of change with technology as the driver. So our two objectives today are welcoming you to PIWOT, hoping that you will join us, and inviting you. For that, we will have something special, which we'll tell you at the end of the webinar. Listen to the conversation between the four eminent speakers and the moderators here, and get a glimpse of what you may see when you come to PIWOT. Other than the hackathon, you will also see a conference with iconic speakers. You will see firesides with entrepreneurs, unicorns. You will see exhibition. You will see startup showcases. Right? With that, I hand over to Pradeep. He will introduce you to the panel, and then the discussion will start. Over to you, Pradeep.
Yeah, thanks, Debashish, and welcome all to this session where we're trying to weave the importance of hackathon and how it helps translate an idea into action. So you all heard of hackathon, and the question was, how do we really then map it to the larger set of event at Pan IIT World of Technology, which happens in Mumbai? So it began some time back, and I will take you through this journey of the hackathon so far, and then bring it to the panelists today, what we have. So let me help trace what we have done so far. So as part of the hackathon build, this time we looked at really imagining what could be possible. And so what it then shaped was the India's largest design and code hackathon. So target was 10,000, and we have crossed 10,000. We have done more than 12,000, and they're growing still as we put the cutoff. Of this, the 200 teams have been selected, which would mean around 500 participants. And they will meet for the finals for 36 hours of live challenge. This also is mixed with a number of demos, high quality projects showcased, and of course, there is a media reach. And the whole idea is then how do we create an impact with all this effort? This time, as we looked at, and AI word and buzzword is all around, we focused on AI. And what we decided almost 8 months back, you see the AI agents is coming to the fore. And so one of the thing and one of the problem to solve is bringing the supremacy of AI agents will be all pervasive in our lives. The second area of the problem that is also being looked at and addressed is how the user interface is changing and how multi-mode conversations are happening now. And last but not the least, the point of looking at how it impacts the real world situation. So whether it's an ed tech or it's a job tech or healthcare, and what is the impact AI has, and therefore the problems are in that space. Some of the spread and what we expected and coming is almost similar to that, where we see you have the developers, we have the senior developers, of course, the management people and student and designer. So it's a fair mix of 12,000 participants that we have in the group that has been participating and now shortlisted. And so the timelines, what started almost in April with the kickoff, it's run a long way with a number of volunteers coming into the place, looking at these applications, filtering out, and we are now set for 18th and 19th of January. But before that, we have today something more to be discussed. And also this panel will bring us some conversation which will help us really look at how to turn idea into action. And this is Hackathon for Change. So I'll be giving a short introduction of our moderator, Mr. Bhupen Chaubey. He's among us the finest political journalist of our times, with a career spanning more than 2 decades. He's been a household name for quite some time now. Starting off his career in NDTV in 2000, he quickly rose, and he's been doing large number of events around conducting the channel, hosting the shows. He's one of the few journalists around who still are the reporters and editors, and he's covered state assembly elections multiple times and also the parliament elections since the year 2004. So now that he's converted into digital world, then he's become the founding editor of thesquirrel.in, and which is a lead opinion center, basically looking at mixing the local with the global. And he's going to moderate our session today with our panelists who are coming from different spaces to bring us something real, interesting things that we're going to see in Hackathon. And with that, I would hand over to Bhupen. Over to you.
Bhupen has got logged out, is it?
I'll just call him.
Yeah, please do, because I think he's not there at all.
So I think till he comes back, I would request the panels, they could introduce themselves, and Padmini could bring it back to the panel members here. Animesh, you could start from your side.
Yep. I worked in No Broker during its seed to unicorn journey, then joined a VC firm, had an experience of investing in JAR, one of a great fintech. Then I started conducting these community events with OpenAI, with Excel, one with Slush, a lot of events around founders, different alumni groups, IIT Kanpur, BITS Pilani. And all these culminated into the entire hackathon stack. So a series of hackathon for companies that are benefiting them. So this has been my entire journey, more of a sort of an operator turned community guy. And events is my core phenomena, conducting events to accelerate either product development, either gain customers or whatever the desired goal is. So, yeah.
So thanks, Animesh. Back to Bhupen.
Well, thanks very much, Pradeep. As things are, we're talking about digital world and hackathon, and the confusion between digital links just tells you that no matter the level of proficiency you can reach in technology, some kind of human intervention is always required to ensure the technology ultimately ends up delivering. But great to be in this eclectic panel with some very, very prominent speakers. When Team Pan IIT had first reached out to me about doing this, truth be told, I was really excited, because these days I spend a lot of my time trying to understand the changes which are being made largely by different kinds of technologies in our lives. And the only thing which I may say right at the outset is, and I say this as a journalist, I do believe that there is still a great lack of information which exists amongst the larger sort of mass base of audiences when it comes to such novel ideas, whether it's hackathon or a whole range of other initiatives which are being undertaken by private bodies or the government sector. So let me welcome all the eminent speakers today. First up, Nand Kumaran is there. He's the president and CEO of National E-Governance Division. Great to have you with us today. Animesh, of course, was talking from Pan IIT. Gautam Bandyopadhyay, co-founder and CEO of Trust, is there. And Sunita ji is there as well from the Wadhwani Foundation. And I'm sure as we go along, there'll be a lot of people who I understand have already joined. So to all our listeners and all our viewers, warm welcome to all of you as well. In northern parts of the country, it's raining heavily. So I hope everyone is safe and sound, and maybe there is some technological solution which exists there which can convey to us the right methodologies and the right modalities of being safe, even when it comes to dealing with the erratic climate that we have in front of us. So let me first begin this session with you, Nand. And let me ask you, Nankumaran, to throw some light into the concept of hackathon itself and the kind of initiatives which have been undertaken by the government. And in the media, we often turn the spotlight on big events which are undertaken by the central government. The National Hackathon Challenge, different states have often come forward, to promote this concept of hackathon. In your idea, what is it that a hackathon really does, and how does it help governments per se? How does it help various arms of government when you think in terms of promotional activities around hackathon?
Thank you, Mr. Lupens, for giving this opportunity and introduction. So basically, what we think is that, say, suppose in conventional way we build roads, or say a hospital, or any infrastructure project. So there we know the scope of the project. The road from A to B is known, the width, construction dimensions, and all. Hackathon is typically seen when you do not exactly know the way to solve a problem, but that problem is coming to you over and over every time. We'll take, say, a sectoral example, like you want to optimize road or optimize some, say, tech platform. We are talking with people of IT. So let's say I'm also posing one problem of, say, designing RFP or tender through using generative AI. I will be explaining this when I get a time to speak on that. So can we use generative AI to improve office productivity? Whether you are writing a concept note or writing an RFP or doing some work, can we train generative model on top of it? And of course, somebody who wants to work on this problem statement, so they need to invest their time and resource, and the team needs to put in time and resource. So how do we, in a way, help them monetize it also? Because they are spending their good part of life, the bright minds are spending time. So it's I will say, a very short dynamic patenting route. So in patent, you have a finite time. There is a preparation time, there is a patent process, and then you have a product which you monetize over a period of 10, 20, 30 years. Here you are putting in some hours, some time, and that product is there, which is used at a larger scale. And then meanwhile, you get a first right to maybe be procured from, or maybe some right to own that product, co-own the product with the government or whatever. So there are various models. So some of the states have rule like up to 1 crore will do this and then procure from that person. In bigger projects, you have Swiss challenge method in design. In hackathon, in IT segment, we have some reward or recognition system as well. So there are various ways in hackathons are conducted in government. And COVID saw a burst of such products created. Say VC, Bharat VC link was created like that. A lot of softwares were created in this model, where we had a product created by small startup companies, some smart people coming up with solution. So when solution is not known, methodology is not known, but problem is known, hackathon gives us that opportunity.
So it's interesting. You say that when a solution is not known, when you're trying to identify, let's say, the contours of a problem, because the first step towards finding a solution is to be able to identify the problem. And I like the example that you've given, the Bharat VC link that you were speaking about. We all saw how, when it came to the COVID pandemic, and we all saw how different levers of the government were all trying to come together using different aspects of technologies, different aspects of digital India, so to say. The Prime Minister, the Science and Tech Ministers have often spoken about the great deal of innovation which was done. Would you throw some light on how decision-making, bureaucratic decision-making, from the point of view of the decision-making apparatus during the COVID times, how did that change, let's say, between 2021 to 2024?
On principles, if we talk on a very conventional, pure principle basis, any procurement process should not know the intent, the outcome of the procurement. That means who will be buying from. Principles basis, because we should be pure neutral. In these kind of problem statements, where you know that most likely these are the people and this is getting, gravitating towards a process. Herein, we have to enter the market with some more features, like some short-term fund support, some short-term non-monetary awards like recognition, rewards, some long-term supports like, say, monetization of the product that they create, which has usage other than government. So there are so many different metrics on which we will have to come up and play to co-create a product like this. So what we have seen in government recently is that many states and many government of India organizations, they have started increasing the depth of procurement through hackathon. We are in MIT, for example, now DPTP compliance is coming up. So a lot of conversation on DPTP compliance, like GDPR of Europe, we are developing now. So a lot of artifacts, whether it is a consent manager or a breach management or grievance management, right to forget artifact. So all these things can be developed through hackathon mode. And then, of course, the people who invest time, money, and have capability and insight can monetize over a period of time. So the process of procurement and the process of engaging with smart people. Of course, we in India, we are very lucky to have a lot of people just coming and sharing their ideas with no monetary intent as well. Pure academic pursuit or pure interest to help their country or to co-create the product. So we have a lot of such people we come across.
So are you, you repeatedly, you've been pointing out, Nand, about the business of procurement, right? Would it be fair to say that if there was greater thrust and greater emphasis on creating an entire ecosystem, say around hackathons, it will actually lead to greater transparency, not just efficiency, greater transparency in decision making?
It will give more choices to people who are taking a call on that. Because suppose if I am designing a product, say, if I have consulted people who are in the ecosystem, a larger number of people have applied their mind, have been given sufficient data and exposure and rules, and they have given you alternative. Then if you take a call, definitely it will help not only transparency, the products that will come up with will also be much better.
Okay. All right. Let me turn the spotlight then on Sunita Singh, who's joining us from the Wadhwani Foundation. Sunita ji, very interesting initial comments being made there by Nanji right at the beginning. The two words which I pick up is transparency, efficiency. Let's stay with those two words. In your opinion, and you all deal with so many different aspects of NGOs and affiliated bodies which can give the right kind of inputs. How does a hackathon, how does it help you in your cause? We understand the government standpoint, but let's say from a foundational standpoint or a non-government sector, from the point of view of in giving inputs to the government, how does that help you, Sunita ji?
So thank you, and it's nice to be here. So picking up on your point, I think the first clarification that I want to make is that, building systemically changing ecosystems is the job of only two types of organizations. One is the government of India or governments of any kind, right? And the other is philanthropic organizations that have a larger mission in mind that can support that on the ground. So I think we fall in that category of saying, how do we actually systemically change and create both efficient but also transparently working ecosystems? Having said that, I think if you look at it in the context of a hackathon is a very important, but nevertheless, one mechanism by which you can get into short bursts of innovative thinking and solutioning. For any ecosystem to really churn out innovations and new technologies and therefore new products that might go to market, you need almost like a continuous flow of innovations to happen. If you look at Elon Musk, we all know him. We know him as, somebody who's literally greater than countries.
Everyone is combined together.
Exactly. So, and I'm sure that a lot of young people aspire to be that. But I think, if you look deeper, a lot of Elon Musk's initial, solutioning and R&D was funded by the government of US and to very large amounts of money. So governments play a very important role in that. That alone, though, may not just be enough. And I think this effort to run these competitive hackathons are very powerful. But what can we do on the ground to really help build the skills, the thought process, the mindsets, the knowledge and the connections with young people that can actually enable them to succeed? Because we're a very large country, 1.8 billion people today. And I think, if we look at a mechanism again, like hackathon, one thing is that in that short burst of application of your smartness, you can come up with a broad solution, and that can then be further worked upon.
Can you just quantify that? I'll tell you why I began this session, Smitaji, by speaking about how in a mass scale, there is still not sufficient information which exists about this concept. I mean, this is Pan IIT, Ashokji and Debashiji have all come together and put together this eclectic set of minds. But the first two questions which I'm getting from the people who are listening, they want to understand, how does this actually play out? How does it actually work? When you say short burst of smartness, can you define what is short burst of smartness?
So, you might over a period of 3 days, 5 days, where you don't do anything other than think of a particular problem. By the way, even there, you're thinking of a particular problem in isolation, right? So you're not going out there to really validate that problem, but somebody has done that for you. And you're expected to apply that, your smartness, your knowledge of technology that you may have gained on your campus, not necessarily in the field yet, but on campus, and come up with. Now that's like raw talent. And there's a lot of that in our country, right? So we're putting it to really good use through these mechanisms. But this is not the be all and end all of things. If our young people, if we have 10,000 people who applied, it took 9 months. By the way, I was looking at the timeline when Pradeep was talking about it. It took 9 months to actually organize this hackathon, right? And we're talking of people coming up with solutions over 3 days, 5 days. So clearly it is just the beginning. That is just the beginning, right? How do we get those 10,000 young people to not just think of this as an end point, but to think of this as a beginning, a point where they begin to build their mindset, their knowledge base, apply themselves to the best possible way, and understand, large processes, large frameworks that allow them to think systemically so that they can continuously problem solve. No matter where they are, whether they end up in the government, whether they end up in a large corporation doing product development, or whether they want to be an entrepreneur, because that's what we need in our country.
Animesh, just taking up from what Smitaji is saying, that 10,000 participants, right? 9 months. I mean, we often, again in the media, in my business, we often speak about Shark Tank and and all these great shows which are going on OTT platforms. But tell us, how did you get hold of these 10,000 participants? What really happened during these last 9 months?
Yeah, so first of all, the core thing that worked for us was an interesting problem statement. The theme is Imagine Hackathon. So all these hackathons are quite have predefined problem statements, and they are not sort of visionary. So they don't. So let's suppose I give you a design problem statement that you have to design how the multi-model UI look like. So if you are say, let's suppose pursuing a fitness app, there is a voice, there is a video, there is a photo, there is a file sharing, and all these user experiences are combined in a single platform. How would you create that? You have to essentially imagine the future. And second, the storytelling. So I believe this is what is different from US and India. In US, there is a lot of experimentation culture. So whenever there is a new stuff dropping in, a new AI model or a new tech is dropping on, people go on in a bunch of 40 folks and they start hacking. While in India, we see this translating more later towards generally by businesses. But in US, we see a culture of experimentation a lot. And since we live in an era where like tomorrow something new can drop in at a very rapid speed, something revolutionary can come at this moment, we need a lot of experimentation. So we crafted a proper storytelling, very good theme that resonated with the audience, definitely. And then there were all those programs, boot camps, offline workshops through which we wanted to provide value and give value. We came to this number, but the whole idea is to like how we can imagine and experiment faster. Yeah.
So in simple terms, do we say that hackathon, and again, I'm trying to make it as broad-based as possible for even lay people to get some input from what we're saying. In the good old days, you would think in terms of a flow chart, right?
Yeah.
Or an algorithm. Hackathon, you're saying, puts you on that path where a group of bright minds all come together. Sunitaji was talking about, short bursts of smartness. You're saying all this comes together and helps you pinpoint a solution in the shortest possible span of time.
Yes. It's like in the shortest possible span of time, and also might help you build your next startup your next project, your next goal in life, your next micro SaaS or whatever you.
Well, let me come back to Sunitaji then on that one. It makes me feel that here now we're talking of the concept of scale. There is a problem, and then there is scale. You yourself are pointing out that governments on their own can't deliver this kind of scale of solution-based approach. What is your understanding? Let's say if you look at it from an Indian landscape, what is the nature of association, nature of collaboration between private bodies, between the government, specifically when it comes to this kind of lateral, out-of-box thinking, hackathon-based thinking?
So, I mean, I think as a nation, we are at a point where there is a lot of mission alignment. And I think that's thanks to, the government's consistent push towards that, right? And also visibility that they have created. And I think that's typically a great first starting point. We are also at a point where individually, several of us have been building the ecosystem, from the grounds up, whether it is the Pan IIT, group, whether it is the foundation, whether it is individual incubators, like NSRCEL or CIIE or IIT Bombay or others, right? Several others. So a lot of those, and also NASSCOM and other bodies. So a lot of work has happened over the past 2.5 decades to really have a lot of local and also national level ecosystems that are doing multiple kinds of things. But when you have a mission alignment, I think we can all start to then think about how do we add value to each other's, to the bits that each other are actually performing, because that's what it takes. So if Pan IIT has, and I'll take this example right here, right? If Pan IIT group chose to organize this because it is going to, I would say, fire the imagination of, and I was corrected that it's not 10,000, it's 12,000. I imagine if 12,000 actually applied, at least, 100x would have actually looked at it and considered applying it, right? So if you chose to actually fire the imagination of these young people, to have them think that they could be much bigger than, what maybe they're being told about at their institution or within their families, if that has happened, and you have the government coming in and saying, hey, here are some real problems that I can put in front of you. So you're not just doing a theoretical exercise, you're going to work on something that actually could have long-standing, impact on our country. Okay. Those are starting points, right? Organizations like us then come in to say, okay, what can we do well? We can help you to really systematically approach problems, to understand how to validate problems, to think of, the solution designs in a systematic manner, because there are processes, there are frameworks that help people who do this well. So we can bring that in to help you to kind of frame this in a manner that allows you to get better output and better results from all of the effort that you're going to put in. So I think already you're seeing here that if we have to get to scale, these are the approaches that we have to apply in order to get to scale. And then here we have you sitting here, and I'm hoping that, eventually you would also talk about this to the rest of the world, so if only 120,000 people have heard of it so far, how do we get it to 12 million people to hear of it, right? So how do we fire more imagination? So I think it becomes a collaborative effort when we have mission alignment. And I think we are at that point in this country. And frankly, for organizations like ours, and I'm sure you are aware, and all of everybody around this table is aware, the fact that in a country of 1.45, God knows, how many billion today, but certainly 1.4, if only 1,500 startups in a good year get funded annually, what is that number? Is that it is certainly not enough for us.
Let me come to Gautam then on that one. Gautam, we've looked at everything in a very nice, optimistic, positive framework. There is a problem. There is a structured approach that Sunita ji has spoken about. Nan Kumaran has spoken about, how it brings in greater efficiency, greater transparency. But there is a cynical sense in me as well. So I'm trying to understand, Gautam, what is missing on the table? What's the missing link? If we've identified the problem, if all of us here in this group are convinced that we should fire the imagination of more people in this great country of ours of over 1.4 billion people, what, in your opinion, is still missing in this entire ecosystem, Gautam?
Well, I think, what I mean, before I come to what is missing in the ecosystem in order to get things done, I think I kind of align to what Sunita was saying, is that there is a great amount of alignment in terms of forces coming together to make sure there are positive steps being taken. Okay. Now, are these positive steps are has really gathered enough mass to snowball into a big activity which can really make large changes or not? I think that is where there is still early days. Okay. I know, and that how can that be? What is missing? Okay, in terms of I'll come to that missing point here. I think there is greater collaboration required from the industry and the government, coming together to make the whole thing go at a much faster pace, right? For example, from an industry specific, if I speak from a corporate, perspective, what I have, if I look back, what I have used hackathon so far for, right? I only see that, okay, hackathon, I've looked at as a means and mechanism of doing quick prototyping, right? Okay, can I go, there is a challenge, there's a problem statement that is available that needs to be solved. Okay, how can I bring the energy unleashed? Okay, people coming, it's complete the intensity of the time bound activity that happens, okay, where everyone comes together and tries to solve a problem in 36 hours. Okay, we don't talk in days. Okay, we talk in hours there, because people are probably just doing sleep rounds, not sleeping at all. Okay, but doing something and coming and showing up prototyping, right? So prototyping is great. It gives you a lot of adrenaline push, and that happens. You have solved a certain issue to a point. But is it something that by definition, what happens is that you are paying lower attention to code documentation, the security aspect of this code, the scalability around a particular code. When you actually have to build on enterprise grade applications, okay, those things don't happen in a hackathon. Hackathon is just a starting point, right? So how it can help, okay, from there, I think if these results can, therefore, if there is a framework around where these are resulting into you getting a customer, right? So if there's the best team or the best teams have whatever has won, right? They I mean, what can the corporate help? Now they can buy that solution, or they can give a buyer supplier relationship, or a vendor partner relationship, which gets in, which if that gets in, because we never learn. Those 36 hours are great. I'm not kind of in any sense trying to belittle that. Okay, in terms of it brings out raw energy. We are at our best at that point in time, but it doesn't teach you as much as your customer interaction teaches. So what is the best result that the industry can give? The best benefit is not that a certain X amount of rupees of the price that happens, but here is a project that you are now part of it. Here is a contract, let's sign it. We are willing to be patient with you guys and work through, I mean, I don't see that happening as yet, right? Okay. While, so similarly government, okay. I mean, in terms of, the government as well, it may be very difficult for the government to procure from people. Most of the RFPs, if you look at it, you need to have a track record of X. You must have done that in Y places, right? Okay, right. This is the kind of things that you hear in all most of the contracts on RFPs. Okay, none anyway. Talking about an RFP creation through generative AI. Okay, but these are the common terms. There are good reasons for them. Okay, I mean, you cannot rely on an unproven provider to do something that is mission critical, right? I mean, I totally understand that. But are there areas which we can identify, which the government can also say that, okay, here is a framework that I will allow certain parts to be done by, through a hackathon process. And then, you get a customer, you can work with I mean, finally, real revenue is real revenue. Prize money is prize money. Okay, it's different. Okay, they are not the same, right? So the real benefit comes where the industry and the government, they come together, and then they can, they can create an infrastructure. They can create a process with which these hackathon winners, okay, and great ideas come. They can get their first customer. The first customer is the most essential part in building any business or any kind of an idea and taking it to scale. It is very, very, very important. Hackathon is just the starting point. I do a hackathon, what I get a prototype, I get a POC, I get some, I mean, as a corporate, I'm telling you, the fact is that the way I use hackathon is to ensure, is to actually discover raw talent. Okay. Ignite the teams, it can be internal, it can be external as well, internal as well. Okay. So if it's internal, you pitch teams together to come out on things that you want a quick solution on and you get quick ideas on, and then that becomes like a regular project, okay, which goes in. Or if it is an external people who are coming in, then you get them together. You are basically trying to understand, hey, which are the guys who are like really, has got the ingredient in them to become, a great developer or a project manager or a product guy or a UI UX guy, who are these guys who I can hire. Okay. So I'm looking at it as a hiring tool. I'm looking at it as a motivational tool for my internal employees, for a training tool for the internal people to say that, okay, are there folks out there which is showing the signs of moving up and taking up higher, responsibility. If their shoulders are broader than their ages, right? These are the things that we are largely using for. We are not really using it for, so in that some sense you can say, and I don't think I'm an exception. Okay. I think that's probably the norm, and that's probably what is missing, Pavitra.
Okay. Let me, the one important point you flagged off, and I want Nandakumar to respond to that. You're saying, Gautam, that there should be a government framework. Let the government be very clear that, okay, this is the challenge, this is a potential solution. Nandakumar, you want to respond to that? That is there a framework that we have?
So there are ways like, say, Swiss challenge method of procurement, wherein design is first competed and the design prototype is then used as a technical qualifying criteria where procurements happen. In some of the projects, say, when there is very unique, say, like a museum is to be designed. Now, a museum is not something which you copy from some other place. Or some very innovative items are there. So those kind of projects, it has been done at scale in many of the government projects I'm aware of. Even funding some project like, say, you choose the winner. Even the PLI schemes are also supportive of some winners of the sector, and then you propel them to next scale. So that is also there. So only scale beyond it. In fact, I have slides which I want to show if there is time to describe the project which presently I am posing in this hackathon. Should I share it?
Yeah. Please do. Can we do that? Padmini, does he have the right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He has the right.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be sharing a document here. So basically what we are doing is that, so in this, what we do is, this is just about it. Next, please. So, So I am coming up with a very specific problem statement. I saw in the question also people are asking. We all heard about tender and RFP and so many documents. So we'll give a list of documents, say RFP documents, tenders, and you have to create one using generative AI. So those of you who are not aware of the process, let me take you to the next point, that how it is structured. So a typical tender is like this. So you will have an introduction, overview, some general terms, some keywords like EMD, PPG. These words I have detailed in the document I will be sharing with the presenter. They can share with you. And then there are some specific content related to that work. So eligibility, payments, timelines, service level agreements, and how you will pay. Next, please. So the first page of it or the content page of it will look like this. Some detail of it will be in this format. So again, this is some text that you will find. Next, please. So these two specific tenders are to be generated using generative AI. One is a document to procure computer. And the second, which you see on the screen, is a document to hire human resources. So the team. So these two documents you have to create out of the generative AI and model. And then to create this, you have to have conformity to certain guidelines, say procurement norm, the knowledge base of that state or that country, or in India, specific to India, say general financial rules or MSME promotion rules or Make in India compliance. So there are certain guardrails that within this you have to think through the document and then come up with a new document. So here the input is the document of tender, which is going to train the model. Guidelines and rule, they give you the guardrail And templates and format, which we have shared in the link, is that what is the output format we need. So a typical prompt that we give to the model, this follows this process. So many of you have done prompt engineering and you have tried your own ways of improving a prompt. So this is in a way a method of it. So these prompts are given, then you, of course, you will implement. We are trying it with using RAG pipeline. So agent and RAG, that is what we are trying to do in our organization. Now we want to use the raw talent, as was discussed by eminent speakers on the panel, of institutions. Can they improvise that solution? So there we like them to, just next please. So, this is the model which we are using here. So we ingest a document that is broken down into chunks, embedded using one or the other model, say Cohere or any other model. And then that is used, that is converted into knowledge base. That is that then prompts are sent on that, a document is created, and then that is passed on to the LLM model, which then prepares another set of documents and gives out back as your output. That is RFP document. In this process, there are many improvements which are possible. Somebody can work on this model. Somebody will say, no, I have a better strategy. The way you chunk is not fair. Or this is not, you have to in fact use agentic RAG. So I will divide the problem into 10 problem statements and use different agents for different components. Now, if I think like that, okay, instead of at what level I have to use agent, somebody will say, no, model Claude is not good. Use OpenAI. Somebody will say, no, I will train Llama specifically for this and then develop. So there are so many ways in which you can come up with this problem. Now, if today, going back to the procurement and efficiency, which was nicely placed by Mr. Bhupenji, that I do not know to write an RFP to procure services of an agency for this, because the solution is so dynamic. It will fit in maybe one or two cases, but when I go to GEM procurement process and I say that I want to put this as a supportive tool to entire government machinery of the country, that they can create their own RFP without need to go to a consulting organization to do this work. So how do I come up with a document? So your contribution will be that you will be shaping the national procurement. You will be influencing that in a big way. So it's a huge opportunity. Other thing that I wanted to bring about what hackathons do, it tells you what is the problem bothering people. So this is the problem bothering government or the procurement system. So if you are aware that there is a problem which people are working, it sensitizes you of the real world problem. So somebody says, why are you not buying electric bus? Why are you not putting an MRI machine in your district hospital? Procurement is a real challenge. You cannot wish it away. So just to make this point, next please. So, and this is the one example, next please. So the output of it, of course, the previous one, the output of it will be a tender. You will be owner of the content that you create. You will be owner of the solution that you provide, and you will have to share with us how you have done it. And there will, of course, as Pan IIT decide, we'll give the prize money as well to the winning team. Thereafter, to make this a continuous process, I just explained with one example. To make this as a continuous process, what we have done is, next please, we have gone to a project called OpenForge. You can check the URL. So code writing. Now, if you have, say, maybe 2-3 days of free time, you want to do a UX audit of one of the application, you can register on the portal. You can do a audit one of the government applications, and you can say that these are the problem I find in the UX, user experience or UI UX of the application. Please do these changes or rank this like this. So you can audit it. We'll send this to the owner of the project, say in Kerala or MP or Delhi, wherever the owner is there of that particular website, and they will then respond. Similarly, you can do documentation work, you can write code, you can do security testing and earn a certificate, which can be pushed on LinkedIn. Your code will be available on GitHub, which can be shown whether for placement or to your peer. So we have created we are in process of creating this continuous engagement model where we can help you for 1 week, 2 weeks. Then you earn, of course, the prize and maybe internship, paid internship, and various formats are available. So these are the ways in which government is trying to engage with the wider audience. I thought I will give this example and make my point more clear, Bhupenji.
No, that's a very good point. In fact, Nanji, your presentation is absolutely top notch. And it makes me then wonder that if there are bright minds like you and there are mechanisms which exist so clearly in the government, all of us are living in the national capital. And we've seen what we've gone through due to pollution in the last 2 months. And I think someone was asking this question as well. Your thoughts, I mean, how can this collaborative approach that you're talking about, can it lead to some solution, let's say, to deal with the problem of pollution?
So generally what we find is that, as Sunita madam was saying, that a systemic change needs a systemic effort. And for that, you have to understand the system. So if somebody says that it is because of, say, vehicle, and we tried, say, odd even policy. Somebody says it is because of parali, that, you ban that, or you put some solid waste plant. So somebody says that, these are 20 parameters affecting or leading to this pollution, and everybody works on different stages. But this kind of big ecosystem will need effort from all of us at a large scale. So I would like to, tell you that story where you say, no, if every day you add 10 flowers in the pond and someday you have half of it, how many days will it take to completely fill the pond with the flowers? And the answer is just one more day. So if you have that approach in these kind of big ecosystem problem systems, so as mission alignment, that if you need somebody who can communicate the problem, put all the elements of the system in place, and then do this. Hackathon, of course, I should not say that it will be the only tool to solve these big problems, but at least it orients all of us that, okay, we have to solve problem. And these are the problems. Let us try it. Maybe some part of it I can solve. But if 10,000 people solve problem, imagine at least 10,000 problems will be solved. And they are not less in number.
Can I just for a moment, I'm just thinking while you were speaking, in 2014, when the BJP came to power, the one program which was spoken about extensively was the smart city program or the aspirational district program. Does this entire structured approach that you're speaking about, aligning of vision statement, mission statement, has this also been a factor in identifying or, in a sense, monitoring whatever work that may have happened through these aspirational districts?
In fact, Smart City structurally engages in Hackathon. For last decade, they have, if you see their procurement, if you see their process of Hackathon, every smart city, I think, has gone for Hackathon process. They have reduced the cost of procurement. And believe me, when you have these bright people come and solve a problem, so they come up with new solutions. And of course, technology also upgrades in the process. So there is a structural attempt, whether Smart City or Digital India Corporation or Digital India efforts. So even railways, all big defense, if you see, go to defense website on procurement through Hackathon or India Make in India initiative, lot of products which were earlier not even thinking that, this can come from domestic suppliers is now coming. We are exporting mobile in a large number. So defense, railways, all big mammoths, urban governance organizations like municipal corporations, they are procuring from local agencies. And capacity of the country, is building in the process. But the numbers will tell you that this takes some time. And the numbers are very encouraging. In defense, more than 2,000 crore rupees procurement has happened through local processes, utilizing the initiative of young entrepreneurs of the country, who, in a way, if not exactly technically Hackathon of 36 hours, but a challenge mode procurement. So the challenge mode procurement is a bit long term, but that is used.
Okay. Gautam, I'm wondering when I'm hearing all these great arguments being made on all sides, I'm wondering whether Hackathon is the answer to solve a lot of crises which exist in my business, which is the news business, which is purely led by human interventions. But a lot of viewers, Gautam, I'm seeing in the Q&A section, are asking whether there can be an AI tool which can be created in the midst of a hackathon itself, so that the tool can point people whether you're headed in the right direction. Any suggestion that you may have, Gautam, there?
I mean, wonderful stuff is happening when it comes to, generative AI today. I think it is like, you use any kind of a forum. I mean, very lately we saw O1, then O3, Gemini 2.0, launch, and it's a very, very dynamic one. I'm sure that something like that is definitely possible. It is possibly an agentic tool, okay, which is which. So with the reasoning capability, which is one of the things that may be required, is it really going in the right direction or not? Okay, we could write agents or multi-agents rather, again, which I think Pradeep talked about it in the very beginning of the show, that there are multiple agents There could be an agent which is evaluating in terms of what is that you're writing. There could be another, there's another agent which is, so that's the, so the way I look at it, Bhupendra, is that anything that you do in the physical world today, right? And the way you do it today. Like, for example, there is a person who's a developer who's coding. There's a designer. There's a QA, right? Okay, and then there's a who's testing it and finding out whether what is being coded is as per the requirement that has been written by the business analyst or the or the business guy who's done there. Okay, then there's an architect who's checking whether the development patterns and the all that is being followed to the tone or not. Now think of this in the physical world or in the human world, there is being done by 4 different people, right? Now, if you convert all this into 4 different agents, okay, which is doing their specialized task in the way that they should be doing it. Okay, one of them is testing the code that is being written. The other one is checking as to whether it is being compliant to the architectural guidelines or guardrails that has been set. Okay, the other one is checking whether it meets the business requirements, is writing the the JUnit test cases and actually running it in the background. Okay, it is very much feasible to do something like that. Of course, the complexity. I mean, this is an area that will. I'm giving an example as to where most of the things is possible to be done. Now, this is in the, I hope, it takes a little bit longer time, I can only hope, okay, that innovation doesn't also become one of those spaces where there could be agentic models to do that. Okay, that is still probably, we are still having the forte in terms of thinking about in terms of what is to be done. But once you have thought what it is, and let's say you have set a direction towards it, whether you are in the right direction, okay, whether it is happening, whether it is deviating from the problem that you're trying to solve or other function calls that you need to make in order to understand, go to the outside world and find out in terms of what all different things exist, okay, where, there are differences that needs to be done. All that is definitely possible even in the, using agentic model, using reasoning model, okay, that we are able to do it. We are reaching that stage very, 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 very soon.
Okay. Debashish, I just want to come to you for a moment because I remember in one of our conversations, you were speaking about how this Pan IIT initiative that you've undertaken, you are trying to create a model where it goes to some kind of completion. There is not just an event, it's not just a hackathon, it's not just one solitary event that you're doing. Why don't you just tell us a bit about how this will reach its climax, its real fruition in a sense?
Okay, so you've asked me a question which I can easily answer. And on the flip side of it, you asked me another question which I cannot answer truthfully, right?
Okay.
So what will happen in the future is something that we have been thinking about. At this point of time, I can tell you the way our thinking is directed, right? Because we really do not know where it will go.
Sure.
In regards of the first part, which is what we are doing, why we are doing, is fundamentally, everybody, each one of us feels very great that we are IITians, right? The point is, if we are IITians, are we doing something which makes us recognizable in a larger audience? Because if and only if somebody outside says, hey guys, these are IITians and these people have these characteristics, then and only then we have some value.
Right.
Otherwise, we patting each other's backs doesn't make a difference. So that is where we thought that we should do something which actually creates an impact. Right. And that was the basis on which this body was formed. So it is not an alumni association. It is an association of alumni come together for a purpose. Right. So we said we will contribute to nation building. And that is something which is evident because we have 3 or 4 initiatives which have started, 2 of which are very prominent. One is an initiative which is called Pan IIT Foundation, or properly named, it is Pan IIT Alumni Reach for India Foundation. It is a body which has been working with state governments to bring out children from economically weaker sections. And when I say economically weaker sections, we are talking about children from families with an annual earning of about 5,000 to 6,000 rupees. They are trained, they are given trade skills, culinary skills, nursing skills, or whatever other professional skills. And between a period of 3 months to 2 years, depending on the nature of program that they're undertaking, they're placed then in an employment opportunity, which gives them about 15,000 to 20,000 rupees a month. So this is transformative for them. May not be for us. We are jaded because we talk about lakhs and other things. For them, from 5,000 to 20,000 is a phenomenal jump. So that is one thing that we are doing. We have another body which is called Wheels, right, which is doing work on water recharging, water sustainability. They're working on livelihood. One of the things that they're planning to start is use technology to uplift the rural part towards urbanization, right? So that they have access to whatever we in urban areas have, and thankfully, possibly without the adverse effects like parali burning and other things that we have, right? So good things. Other thing that we also want to do is, from an education point of view, our education, our profession, our application of education, all of these have been disjointed. That is what we are seeing. Because when we talk about educationists, most of the time they do not talk to industry and figure out how their knowledge and expertise could be used gainfully. Likewise, the industry is also not very willing to talk to education because they feel that these people only talk theory, don't have any idea of practice. One of the things that we're trying to do is get these two together so that they get an opportunity to talk and understand each other. Right. So from that point of view, the job that we are doing is bringing people together so that they could start having conversations, and those conversations veer towards a consequence. Without a consequence, anything that we do is a wasted effort. Whether it is education, whether it is anything, I may be educated. There are people who have multiple doctorate degrees, but can't apply anything of their knowledge for nuts. Now, that is wasted. Why? Because they have spent a lot of time, but they're not useful, not even useful to themselves. Right? So one of the things that we're trying to see is whatever work institutions are doing, and not limited to IITs, can we bring them to the society so that the society is benefited by those researches, those experiences, those educations? And that is why we need the industry, academia to come together, the startups to come together, the talent to come together, and people from all over the place, all straight out of the society, to see what kind of people come together to create a viable and a performing society.
Okay.
And one of the things that we believe is that by enabling each of these, we will possibly be able to break the divide, which is, I would say, politico-cultural from that point of view. Right?
It's interesting. You use an interesting phrase, political culture, and I want to take that back to Nand Kumar in a moment. But I just want to dive back to Sunita Singh. When Devashish, when you speak about education, I think there's something there, because organizations such as the Wadhwani Foundation and a whole host of other organizations, I'm sure, across the country, have a very important role to perform when it comes to dealing with education in this specific technical landscape. Sunita, what are the kind of initiatives that bodies such as yours have been undertaking? Because again, a lot of people have been trying to raise this question on the chat box about let's say funding, about opportunities, information. Just throw some light on the kind of role that you feel bodies like yours can perform.
Yeah. So I can probably only comment based on, our direct both observation and experience this past, I would say, decade. So I think, first of all, the problem that, was just highlighted of education being a little disconnected from the real world is a real problem, and we've all known it. I think education, ecosystem understands it. I think students feel it. A whole lot of them are choosing to get themselves educated, not necessarily on campus, even though they're enrolled on campus, but elsewhere. So I think we're seeing the manifestation of the fact that there is a disconnect. The important gap is understood, but how to fill that gap is really where we see a big challenge. It's not an easy thing to fill. I think, for the system was built for education to to function in a certain way, and technology and demographics and how they engage in learning or with content or with interest is changing far too rapidly today. So I think that's an added dimension to the problem, far too rapidly today for them to really keep pace. That's been my observation, our observation, I would say. Now, what are we doing to solve this? We've been one of the verticals in our foundation, and our core mission is job creation. So we work with startups and we work with SMBs and so on. But a single vertical is to really build the next generation of innovators and startups, right? And so that by definition means being able to train, educate, build the mindset to first of all identify real problems, to become inspired by them, and to know how to tackle them and want to tackle them, right? So it's a tall order if you want to actually do this just purely through the academic system the way it exists today. So rather than changing that entire academic system with training of faculty and changing giving them the curriculum, having them change things, having them develop content, it's not going to happen. It won't happen for eons because it is calling for too much disruption at this point, particularly if you look at entrepreneurs. So the approach that we took was to say, how do we bring in the change in a manner that they can adapt it, right? So how do we use technology? How do we use it in a dynamic manner? It's not just that technology means everything is online, but it means that technology is now being used in a hybrid mode, where the teacher is still a facilitator, but does not have to be the imparter of all knowledge. Now, that's a very, very, very important kind of a role still, because you're still the inspirer, you're still the motivator, you have all the tools at your hands. You are able to provide the students with multimodal content, which can go to different levels of depths depending upon their appetite at that point in time, right? And it includes things like, simulations and games and things that actually they enjoy doing. And in the process, they're learning. Now, that's actually something that will be hard for every individual university to develop. So we invest our time, effort, energy in developing platforms and variants of, programs that can be deployed by multiple universities for young people, much more easily.
And is there a greater thrust on international collaborations for organizations like yours?
Yeah, so we are an international organization. We operate across, 4 different continents and, 18 to 20 countries around the world. The interesting thing is that in the world of generative AI, we can now think of doing not just platform-based content and curriculum and bring that into classrooms across the world, but we can do localized content, we can do localized data, we can do adaptive, right? So we're veering more and more towards, we already, the entrepreneurship program that we have, and a variant of that is something that the young people who are here and who are not here but are participating will experience through the bootcamp that we're going to organize for them, is that it is tailored to their specific area. Now, in this case, everybody is working on a single program or on a single problem. So there is a singular problem that's out there. But in a typical situation, if you have 100 people, you have 100 different problems that people are thinking of, 100 sectors or subsectors that they have in mind, right? How do each of those then actually explore there while sitting in the same classroom? I think that's the important thing. And the platform today already allows for that to happen. We were I think Gautam was talking about agents. I think those things are already, I think the simpler version, the assistants are already working. Any of us here can literally just go to OpenAI and build simple assistants, which are tailored to our specific, that limited world, and it'll do a fine job. Yeah. That's already something that you can do.
Okay.
And, so I think, so that's what we're doing. We're bringing it into the academic system in a way that it's not disruptive. At the same time, it's helping them to start using it, start thinking more broadly about other stuff. So hopefully,
Collaborative. I think the word that we're looking for is collaborative. Not one is not trying to disrupt it completely, but more push it
correct,
down the
correct,
collaborative.
correct. Yeah.
Animesh, you were right at the beginning. You were speaking about storification. You were talking about how there was storytelling, which was an essential part of this entire exercise. Look at what Sunita is saying. The kind of initiatives which bodies such as the Vadvani Foundation are undertaking when it comes to education. Why don't you tell us how are you applying the metrics of storytelling in this entire exercise, Animesh?
Yes. So at the end of the hackathon, you have to present your outcomes. This presentation involves some sort of demo, technical demo. And why are you building this? What is the exact use case that is being solved here? In the entire narration, there is the whole market aspect, this problem solution aspect, all these things tend to become a storytelling initiative. So generally in hackathons, folks solve particular technical problem of a particular layer. All our themes are centered around building solutions that actually have a exact use case that you can say, okay, this is the problem, this is the solution, this is why we are solving it. This is our team, why we are solving it right now. So the entire format of hackathon is more like a startup VC pitch. So here it definitely creates outcomes better. In one of our hackathon, 2 folks got funded by Better Capital at this spot in the event. So we are looking these sort of outcomes that folks from VCs visit these hackathons, see what folks are building, and then they get those outcomes. The solutions convert into those outcomes. It does not remain a regular project that wants some prize money, etc.
Bhupendra, if I may,
Yes,
just
yes.
a very small point. I think Animesh is making a wonderful point. I think, particularly, I mean, it's always been true. Humans thrive on stories. Stories are what give wings, the wind that it needs to fly. It's true for every individual. And I think we're very bad at storytelling. That's the reality. And technologists are even worse, sorry to say that, because we're not taught the importance.
I'm a storyteller, but I'm not a technologist. You're a technologist and you want to be a storyteller. Maybe we should.
Yeah. So I think it is a wonderful initiative that Pan IIT and this hackathon is taking on to say that stories are really what binds us. If you're not inspired and if you can't tell your inspired story, what are you doing? You can't sustain it. It's going to be hard in any case. So you won't be able to sustain it.
I completely agree with you. I often wonder, because all of us spend a lot of our time on social media platforms, and I see the extent to which people are going to create reels. Sometimes it looks to me as if we're becoming a nation which is only obsessed about making reels, which is the easiest thing to do. But Nan, I want to come back to you. I think you're in your office, Nan. This is the last Friday of the year, and you're still in your office. What's a big challenge that you've set out for yourself?
I think this problem statement on which we are working, we want to, in this coming year, we want to use Gen AI in every government website that we run. So that is one of the problem statement that has been engaging our mind. Since we are also aware that what is put from government side, there has to be a level of authenticity before we put out in public. So we are taking due diligence. We have started, I also run DigiLocker. DigiLocker is one of the application which is popular in students. So
Yes.
there also we have just released a teaser of chatbot using Gen AI. So we are starting to populate our applications with Gen AI assistant, but we want to go a bit calculated. And of course, we're very excited to see the energy in the webinar and the participation. I'm really hopeful that, we'll get something very useful.
I want to ask you this question, and then I'll bring in Gautam on that one. Look at Elon Musk. I think Sunita was speaking about this. The amount of time that is spent in countries across the world looking at what's happening in Meta, what is Mark Zuckerberg up to, or what Elon Musk is up to, or what the creators of YouTube are up to. In India, from an Indian landscape now, at some stage, I'm sure there is an ambition, but are we moving in that direction? Can there ever be a YouTube created by India being consumed across the world?
Definitely. Though we are characterized as a service nation and not a product nation as far as tech is concerned, But the way it is evolving and the way we are looking, see, earlier the concept was that we were trying to serve other countries because margins are more and the kind of competition we have there for getting business relatively more competitive in India, and margins were less, the opportunity were less. Now, as we are seeing, there's a lot of business case, a lot of paying capacity within the country. Since that capacity is adding up and that size of economy is growing, so you will have products scaling up in the country. Say, we always take name of Zoho or say some API connecting. There are so many other applications that we have. Unicorn list. I think Pan IT is there, so they can have the list of all the companies which are there. In fact, they are fundamentally changing the way we do business. So not only they are coming up with a new product, they are defining the UPI, say, for example, one of the success story we keep thinking about. So the way we look at the problem statement itself is being redefined in the country. So just wait for 5 to 10 years bandwidth, and you will see a lot of products coming up from India, and that too, changing the way softwares are done, the processes are done, or problems are solved.
Okay,
Can I
Gautam,
just add
what
one
would you
thing?
say? Devashish, you want to say something? And then
I just wanted to add something. I mean,
yes.
and what I'm just adding to what Nand said, fundamentally, what has happened over the last few years that rather than talking about grandiose things, we have started doing small, small things. One of our challenges is that whenever we talk about problem, either we look at boiling the ocean or we look at something so insignificant that nothing makes sense. So rather than doing that, I think if we focus on doing the immediate problem in our hand, find a solution and go ahead, possibly we will be able to find out some level of satisfaction and figure out something else to do. The key part, and here I think the defining moment is what our former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam said, igniting 1,000 minds is what we are actually trying to do. It is not an easy task in a country of such diversity and so many people, but in our own way, we are trying to contribute to that minuscule thing that moves us towards that direction.
But can I be slightly take a contradictory viewpoint?
Please.
And maybe I'll go back to Nand on this one since he's from the government sector. I mean, look at India's story, Nand Kumaran, right since India's independence. Right, every election that has been fought in this country has been about Garibi Hatao, has been about dealing with poverty, and still in 2024 we're still dealing with that. Right, look at the recently concluded assembly elections, where the focus from politicians appears to be what is a cash dole out that you can give. Here, Devashish is speaking about igniting 1,000 minds, and if you go on my platform squirrels.in, we've done a whole analysis of how each political party in each state in India today is only interested in winning an election by throwing a cash dole out. So I want to understand from you, there are bright minds like you, Nand, and then there is the necessity of winning an election. This necessity of winning an election versus the desire of igniting, 1,000 minds. Are they working in tandem, or is it a big contradiction, big gap there, Nand?
The problem, let me speak, it's my personal opinion, it's not a government opinion.
Yeah, just as a technocrat, I mean, in your understanding.
So if you draw the income curve of India, the people, if we just draw income distribution in India, what we see as 1,000 or 2,000 or 4,000 rupees that we see as a cash transfer scheme, that is a lifeline consumption money which people need in this country. Many a times we do not see that is not the choice of a policy, it is the choice of survival many a times in many of the state contexts. So just the money, a short cash flow of few thousand is not a political choice. Many times it's a survival choice for many families. It has a lot of externalities on one side. So political economy is aligned towards it. State after state is going for it. And at a personal level, I also contributed in this kind of scheme design when in my previous job. So there is a.
So you're the one who's created all this welfareism model?
No.
The Revdi culture, the freebies, you're the one. Okay.
No. That's a political economy question, and I'm not the right person to answer that. But
sure.
Let Thomas Piketty and other economists on the right side settle that. But what I can say that these questions are problems of society. And if you solve problem of small cash flow, you will solve problem of bigger thing also, as Mr. Devashish was saying that, problem solving comes in a generation of people. If I see a problem in front of me and I attempt it, I will attempt small problem. I will gradually attempt medium size and big size problem. If I just give up solving my problem, whether it is crossing a road or taking a big problem, this mindset has to come. When we pose a problem statement and somebody solves it for the country scale, they will get the confidence कि इसको कर सकते हैं. People are dropping out of IITs and Harvards and MITs and pursuing their goal. Nobody assures them of success at that stage. It is only on conviction. And how does it build? So if political people are taking a call to solve their problem, which is winning election in a particular way, believe me, next time when a bigger problem will come to them or a different problem will come to them, they will take an attempt to solve the problem. Let us encourage them also, because you have to be fair to them. They also have to go and seek. They cannot go and tell, say, Elon Musk or some Tesla story to somebody who has, bigger, immediate problems right in front of them. So livelihood is at stake, or maybe some medical issue is at stake. So freebie is a different way to handle a political economic question. So it's a genuine economic option and a strategy. World over it is done. It is not only in India that is done. So whether you decide to give it as a conditional cash transfer or some infrastructural support or some opportunity, because unless economy has the opportunity for everybody and everybody is one or the other way participating in economy, you will have to knock off some money from the top of the curve and distribute it. No economy has grown. If you see the process, this is one of the legit method, I will say. Again, it's for economists to settle the debate.
No, fair enough. I was only trying to draw linkages and figure out, how the two walk hand in hand. But Gautam, final question to you, because there are several questions there which are there in our chat box, and the organizers, I think now we've been doing this now. I can't believe that we spent almost an hour and a half having this fantastic conversation, and time has just flown by. But Gautam, I was raising this question of Elon Musk, right? Let me ask you, in your opinion, we can have a UPI, we can conceive this idea of trade taking place internationally in rupee as let's say as early stage as it may be. But how far are we in your understanding where there will be an Indian tech product which will be out there in the world being consumed by different nationalities, by different people across the world? Are we on that path as Nand is saying, Gautam?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I agree on that with Nand. Okay, let me just tell you this. So when I began my career in the IT world, when I moved from the banking to the to the technology segment, I joined this company Infosys, okay, which is the company which is the one of the leading companies for the service revolution, and as Mr. Narayan Murthy used to say, made the Indian passport respect worthy, right? Okay. But within that organization, I was lucky enough to join a group called Finacle, okay, which is the core banking solution that is already used by the entire world. Okay, and that's not the only product. Okay, when it comes to, let's say, the banking world, okay, whether it is Finacle or whether it's FlexCube, okay, which is or of course acquired by Oracle now, okay, or whether it is, let's say, some of the other loan applications which are also globally used, and they are all manufactured, they are all conceived, written, maintained, in India. Okay, so definitely, I mean, it's just maybe one of examples you may say. Okay, there are other things that, of course, the pace has picked up. So obviously, in a very large company of 100,000 people, there was only one product. It's unthinkable in the West. Okay, in the West, people come in a garage. If there are 7 or 10 people together, they will create a product rather than, so that mindset and mentality, of course, has not come in. But time for us has definitely arrived, because it is a market that cannot be ignored. Okay, we are the fastest growing economy in the world. Okay, even though it's slowed down a little bit last quarter, but nonetheless, okay, I think we are well on track to become, probably the third largest economy, in certain, in a decade or so. $30 trillion we are talking about it. I think there is a huge amount of opportunity that exists in India. Okay, and there is of course a very large problem that also we have. We have a largest number of unemployed, youth. Okay, and that's a problem that we need to be, solving in terms of, I mean, on the other side, AI and Gen AI is talking about productivity improvements, which will take less and less people. So it's a very, nuanced issue that we have got. But if we balance all that, okay, and that can be balanced only with respect to building large scale product, okay, large scale product that is not only used by India, but by across the world, and solving the domestic issues. The domestic market itself is a large market, large market to look at. We are already seeing that. We are already seeing lots of products being manufactured, or not just on the manufacturing and on the application side as well, okay, on the software side as well, which is being used by, I mean, there are many glorious names now. So essentially, I completely believe that the movement towards becoming a product nation, okay, is certainly, which has started, I mean, in a small way, it has started a lot before, but it is definitely gathering, much and much more velocity, I would say.
I think Devashish is making a good point to me that Zoho by Sridhar Vembu, for instance, is a private venture which is being consumed, and UPI, as Nan Kumaran was also speaking about, it's also on its way. So here's hoping that at some stage in not too distant a future, we'll also have our own YouTube kind of product. The productification which is being spoken about is something which will gather more steam and have more legs. Let me take this opportunity then to toss it to Padmini and to Shweta, because there are a lot of questions that they have, and I'm sure some of you may like to take some of those questions. So Padmini or Shweta, all yours.
Thank you, Bhupendra, and thank you all the panelists, speakers. It was an amazing session, lot of conversations and lot of actual real-time information that our attendees actually wanted. I will take up a few questions, and then I will also give a surprise coupon code for which we have specially for the attendees of this webinar, wherein you can register and avail the special discounts that we have for our attendees for the main event, PIWOT 2025, which will be hosted in Mumbai on 17th, 18th, and 19th of January at Geo World Convention Center. All right, so let me just start with the question. So Vivek Jha is asking how to improve creativity and curiosity in Indian school education. Any of the speakers?
I think Sunita should take that question because she was speaking specifically about education.
Sure.
Well, I mean, there's no single answer to that, how to improve creativity, but I think it's really about engaging in more project-oriented, opportunities. That could be around entrepreneurship. It could be around, stuff like this, hackathon and others. But essentially, you have to put yourself in a position where you have to we come up with creative solutions. And that's the only way, you can learn techniques of problem solving or techniques of ideation, but beyond that, you have to practice.
Correct. So like as Sunita mentioned that, techniques of problem solving and you have to have your own creativity. So there's a question specifically for Debashish. Also Sushant Jha wants to ask about what approach should be followed, theoretical approach or practical approach while, you are participating in webinar, in hackathons.
I think anywhere, whatever we learn, unless we apply, we do not retain the knowledge. Right? So it is, as Sunita said, practice is important. And what we are learning needs to be practiced in real life. So unless we practice, that will not remain. So I would put the question back to him that if we are able to anchor our learning to a specific situation or a milieu or whatever in real life, then and only then we carry it forward.
Yeah. So one of the attendees is asking, what resources or tools do you recommend we leverage to maximize our project's impact and feasibility within the given timeframes? Open for any of these speakers.
Pradeep, would you like to take?
I was going to say Sunita and so I think there are a number of tools, but there's no specific tool that I have in mind at the moment. A lot of open source tools are there to look at product management, look at the project management. There are open source tools which people are using. A simple tool that we use, for example, which is just plain documentation, is called Fibri. And fundamentally, there are simple tools which are available, and people have to just stick to one of them and make people use them.
To add to what Pradeep said, I think there is one part which is called tools. Tools are finally aids. But what drives us is our mind and our clarity of objective. Unless we practice with our mind, you can give any tool to anybody, it doesn't work.
Yeah, totally agree. So Pushpendra Singh wants to ask, sir, what is your view on the effect of AI on the employment in India? I think it's going to create a large and more unemployment. And on the other aspect, we are trying to reduce the unemployment and increasing GDP like stuff.
I think Nand Kumar, that's a question straight up his alley.
No, so there are two extremes on which people have opinion on this. On one side, that okay, the jobs will be gone and AI and agentic AIs will do it. On the other hand, digitization throws its own kind of job. You will have more jobs and different type of job, more as bank digitization did to bank and financial market. So what we are seeing, this debate that is happening around, that US or Western world sees this problem statement in a very different light. What they think is that okay, everybody is employed, some of it will be out. In India, a lot of people are already employed in something very different or not employed. So the impact on our market will be very different as it compared to a Western market where everybody is there in some or the other formal sector. So here, what we should be thinking is, how do we leverage this in employment, or say expanding the scope of economy, expanding the scope of formal economy that we see in other parts of the world or other formats to create more demand, or to say, create something which this is, it gives you the tailwind. So our approach, what we have been seeing in Ministry of Electronics and otherwise, government has started utilizing this to push more and more product development size. So for example, AI in some design, which was earlier designed outside. So AI in some processes, say maybe film design. So Bangalore is producing films, or Bangalore is doing the back-end job of many of the Hollywood movies, which is shifting to India now, and we are doing those jobs. So we see it as a different tool also. At the same time, as I told you in the beginning itself, there are two different views, very solidly anchored on either side. So we will be responding, and everybody in the society is responding to it. Believe me, people will never be jobless. Even if you give everything to anybody and put them in a room, after 2 hours you visit them, they will be doing something. So that is how human mind is structured. They will find a work for themselves, remunerative or otherwise. So do not worry about it.
So following up to this question, there's another question. So I think Nand, you are in a better position to answer this. So, sir, so Aman is asking, in the present time, AI is threatening, jobs in across industries. So, you have a view for that.
I will again say it is changing the way we do job. Have we reduced? Earlier, website was a big time event when websites were created. Now we have websites for birthdays or special days of the organization. Modules are being developed, so the consumption is also increasingly proportionately. Earlier, we never saw that a small event is creating coffee mugs or T-shirts or so many brand or so many souvenirs. Now, a lot of consumption is increasing, which is tech enabled. So I will say that it is creating its own market. The way conventionally we used to see jobs, it is changing. The human drudgery might change, but I am leaning more on side that, okay, it's not that if a horse gave way to internal combustion engine or it gives to an autopilot car, then we lose job. I will like to lean more on that side, that we will find a way to engage ourselves meaningfully and economically gaining out of the process.
Gautam, I was coming to you only. Gautam, I was coming to you just as a follow-up, if I may. Don't you think that in this last hour and a half, the great optimism that all of us have tried to create, look at the questions which are coming in. This insecurity, is it due to lack of information, or is it that the ground reality is vastly different from what is being projected here?
Well, I would tend to believe that it is lack of information, because you see, when somebody asks this question to me, that what will happen to this, I say, I don't know about whether AI will take your job or not, but if somebody who has mastered AI might take yours. Okay, is that the answer that I give it? Because see, I don't think we need to get really in a panicky mode in order to in terms of whether AI will take the job. AI will probably make our jobs easier. New jobs will be created. Okay, at some point in time, and there'll be some mechanism of balancing this. The government has to play its role. Okay, in terms of whatever is happening in a small form, maybe it will happen in a larger mode. Let's say, for example, if you own a robo, you may have to pay tax for that robo. Okay, I mean, like you pay taxes for yourself. If you're getting something done from a let's say there's a robotic help that is available, you pay taxes for that because you're probably taking away job from from let's say somebody who's providing you those services, right? Okay, I don't know what and where it will go, but I think there is at least enough and more to be done, for all of us to be there, and at least for this particular kind of I mean, yeah, these questions are something that keep going around, and therefore I don't know, I mean, maybe because we discussed towards the end that one of the problems that we need to solve is there is a large amount of unemployed youth that is there. I really looked at that problem as a problem that can be solved. There is opportunity out there in terms of how you can create jobs, but maybe that has been interpreted like that. It's probably not. Okay, so I would say it's more of an understanding. I would like all of these guys to look at this as an exciting time that we are living in. Something that we can really learn newer skills and create solutions that can have really lasting impact. It can improve the lives of billions. Okay, that's what should be driving us. At least definitely to this particular participant, which are really elite. Okay, from the country really expects a lot from us, all of us, and we must do something about it.
All right. So while I put up the promo codes on my screen, I'll just take one last question. So anything related to virtual reality, which will be revolutionary in the new generation or business for customer experience, is what Vinay is asking.
Gaming and entertainment, and to an extent, medical. These two sectors, we see a lot of virtual reality content being consumed and processes being designed on it.
Any other inputs from our other speakers?
I
think
think maybe
education.
also computer-based training, skilling, for example, of doing specific jobs, another area where virtual reality or something hybrid can also be used.
Yes, Sunita, you were saying something.
No, I think I was just backing what was just said. I believe education is up for major transformation, both how we educate ourselves and where we educate ourselves. I think that's going to take a dramatic change because there will be possibilities, and I think there's huge opportunity there.
Absolutely. So participants, attendees, here are the promo codes for all of you. These promo codes will be active until tomorrow midnight, and you all can avail the special offers that we have for you. Please register on our website and use these promo codes. We will also be sharing an email with the promo codes as well as the PPT that Nand had shared. I'm sure all of you would be looking forward to, diving deep into it and getting insights from this. And yeah, we'll be coming up with some more webinars. You should follow us on our social media handles, Pan IIT, and you will get all the details about the event, about the agenda, about what we will be discussing, what all insightful information you will get if you attend Pivot 2025. So I thank you all the speakers and all the panelists and the stakeholders of Pan IIT Pivot 2025, and Bhupendra for that amazing session that, the moderation that you did. It was amazing. And I'm sure all the participants, they had a lot of learnings and they'll have a lot to take back with them. And yeah, you can please come to Pivot and you can actually experience how that 3 days hackathon will be conducted. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very nice
Thank
session.
you, everyone.
Thank you, Bhupendra. Excellent conducting.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. My number is there on that group, so we can stay connected offline.
Yeah, we will.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, just a quick this thing. I think Shweta showed the link as www.pivot.panit.org. I think it is pivot.panit.org, not www. It is https:// pivot.panit.org. Just check it out.